Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into something absolutely mind-bending, Genesis and the DD77 paradigm shift. We're talking about a seemingly impossible invention that literally shattered the boundaries of reality and changed the entire course of human history. Seriously, it's a massive technological leap that's going to force us to question everything we thought we knew about space, data, and, well, existence itself. So, right off the bat, I want you to think about this central paradox. Can you teleport to a place that just doesn't exist? I know, it sounds like a riddle, right? But framing a journey to nowhere is absolutely crucial if we want to understand the sheer magnitude of the tech we're looking at today. For one engineer, this wasn't a riddle at all. It was the ultimate frontier. Section 1. The limits of teleportation. To really grasp how wild this revolution was, we have to look at the unbreakable rules of commercial teleportation back in the mid-2050s. You see, the original systems were essentially just really sophisticated positioning devices. They'd read your precise quantum state, dissolve you, and then rebuild you at point B. But here was the catch. Point B actually had to be real. It required hard physical coordinates on a global network. We're talking measurable places like downtown Tokyo or a research station in Antarctica. But the DD77, it completely throws those rules out the window. It doesn't use a coordinate database at all. Instead, it actively synthesizes a destination matrix from raw data. It literally constructs the location from texts and records, meaning the target doesn't need to physically exist anywhere on Earth.
Which brings us to Section 2, the DD77 breakthrough.
So who made this impossible idea a reality? An engineer named Randy Stevens. And his hardware, the DD77, was completely unprecedented. DD77 officially stands for Destination Driver 77th Iteration, mostly because Randy just kind of stopped counting his failed attempts around number 40. Instead of relying on those fixed coordinates we just talked about, this revolutionary chipset builds its anchors out of pure information. If you give it enough data input, like historical records, geographic surveys, architectural plans, or even just literature, the DD77 synthesizes a destination matrix that is actually rich enough to execute a physical transit.
All right, moving on to Section 3, testing the boundaries.
Now, this wasn't just some theoretical exercise mapped out on a chalkboard. It required a rigorous and, frankly, incredibly dangerous series of physical excursions to tune the algorithms. Step by incredible step, Randy pushed the limits. He started with historical reconstructions. For Excursion 1, he fed the system photographs, diarist accounts, and municipal records to synthesize a 19th century market street in London. He spent 47 minutes physically walking on reconstructed cobblestones that hadn't existed for 150 years. He was listening to horse-drawn wheels, and apparently he came back shaking, but he kept pushing. Excursions 2 through 12 tuned the algorithms even further. By Excursion 13, he's standing in a reconstructed Viking settlement. It was cold, it smelled of salt, and it felt achingly real. But then we get to Excursion 14. This is the one that changes everything. Because for the very first time, his target wasn't a historical place. It was an unprecedented jump straight into a purely fictional realm.
So how do you prep for that? Section 4, preparing for Excursion 14.
Having totally mastered the reconstruction of the past, Randy needed a new spatial dataset to target a place that had only ever existed in words. It took him 3 painstaking weeks to compile what's probably the most comprehensive literary to spatial dataset ever made. For his primary texts, he used Alex Newman's 2040 novels, specifically Genesis and Through the Data Stream, along with all their annotated editions and illustrated schematics. Then he layered in a massive package of secondary materials. We're talking psychological analyses of dream logic, essays on artificial matter, biblical geography from the King James Bible, the Lost Sea Scrolls, and even a dense academic paper on non-Euclidean topology. The DD77 had to take every single word, image, and concept from all of that and distill the essential shape of a physical place. But there was one final, absolutely vital missing piece to the puzzle: 11. That is the number of minutes of audio Randy recorded to anchor this massive web of objective data. He actually recorded his own college memories of reading the Genesis book. He talked about the physical weight of the novel in his hands and the specific feelings that certain passages evoked for him. He tagged this 11-minute file as subjective resonance data. So you see, he wasn't just feeding the machine cold hard facts anymore. He was feeding it the human experience of those facts. It's pretty wild.
Once the data package was loaded, the prep shifted from compiling information to pure physical readiness. Randy suited up for the complete unknown. He wore this matte gray one-piece excursion suit, packed with embedded biometric sensors that continuously fed his vitals back to the lab monitors. He had soft boots with specialized grip soles, a lightweight headset that doubled as a recorder, and, probably the most crucial piece of gear, a return beacon strapped to his left wrist. It had a manual override so he could bail out and come back instantly. But just in case things went south, it had a fail-safe system programmed to automatically yank him back to the lab after exactly 6 hours.
Imagine standing right in front of the dark glass of the teleportation door. The tension in that room must have been unreal. Randy methodically ran through this rapid-fire pre-jump checklist. DD77 chipset, online. Emitter array, calibrated. Biometrics, nominal. Return beacon, armed. Data package, loaded.
Section 5. Stepping into fiction.
He made a brief log entry in his notebook, looked at the glass, took a deep breath, and spoke these exact words. Destination synthesis, neogenesis. Now, normally when a teleportation door fires its emitter array, you get this cascading sequence of light. It looks kind of like ink dropping into water as it connects to a known coordinate. But remember, the coordinate for neogenesis did not exist anywhere in the physical universe. In all of Randy's past tests, whether it was Victorian London or that Viking village, the destination had kind of just settled. It formed into something recognizable, like a street or a shoreline, clearing up like a window you could look through. But neogenesis completely defied all expectations. It didn't just coalesce, it violently, magnificently erupted into existence.
The visual anomaly here was just staggering. The glass filled with colors that were overly saturated and vibrantly alive. We're talking fuchsia, cobalt, and a shade of green that physics says is mathematically impossible for us to even perceive. Yet there it was. And the colors didn't blend into some peaceful landscape either. They visually argued with one another. They vibrated with this intense musicality. In that exact moment, Randy realized the synthesis algorithm hadn't just built a geographic location. By processing the novels, the essays, and that 11-minute personal audio file, the machine had ultimately produced a mood rather than a strict physical location.
But the DD77 had worked. Randy Stevens took a step forward and crossed right through the glass, becoming the first human being in history to step into a reality forged entirely from literature and data. In doing so, the trajectory of humanity was irreversibly changed. Suddenly, we were no longer bound by the universe that simply was. We could step right into the universes we dreamed up. Which really leaves us with this final, staggering thought to consider as we wrap up this explainer. If data and memory can actually physically construct our fiction, what really separates imagination from reality? When a mood can become a tangible place that you can touch, breathe, and walk around in, where exactly does the story end, and where does our universe begin? It's definitely something to think about the next time you lose yourself in a really good book.